Please be advised that Little Miss Recap contains adult language.
In the book you write, he says, "They tried, darling boy. I'm afraid she didn't make it." These phrases remain in my mind like darts in a board, you say. Did you cry?
No, never shed a single tear at that point. I was in shock. You know, you're 12 years old, sort of 7:30 in the morning, early. Your father comes in, sits on your bed, puts his hand on your knee and tells you there's been an accident. I couldn't believe.
And you write in the book that Pa didn't hug me. He wasn't great at showing emotions under normal circumstances, but his hand did fall once more on my knee and he said, "It's going to be okay." But after that, nothing was okay for a long time.
No, nothing was okay.
Harry says his memories of the next few days are fragmented, but he does remember this, greeting mourners outside Kensington Palace in London the day before his mother's funeral. When you see those videos now, what do you think?
I think it's bizarre because I see William and me smiling. I remember the guilt that I felt.
Guilt about
the fact that the people that we were meeting were showing more emotion than we were showing. Maybe more emotion than we even felt.
They were crying, but you weren't.
There was a lot of tears. I talk about how wet people's hands were. I couldn't understand it at first.
Their hands were wet.
Their hands were wet from wiping their own tears away. I do remember one of the strangest parts to it was taking flowers from people and then placing those flowers with the rest of them, as if I was some sort of middle person for their grief. And that really stood out for me.
Hi everyone, welcome to Little Miss Recap, the podcast where Amy's husband rolls over in the middle of the night while she's watching The Crown and says, "Is that really Charles? Who are they trying to sell that
to?" No, in fact, Timmy, no, that is not Charles. That is the very, very handsome and very kindly cast Dominic West. Good God, that's hilarious.
My name is Amy Archer. I'm your host. I'm here with the lovely... What could you be today? You could be the Parmesan cheese to my meatball today, I think.
Okay, that's where we're feeling. Okay, cool.
Amanda Lipnack-Radell. And I say that because I had a meatball yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And I loaded that baby up with Parmesan cheese.
Which I would never do because of my cheese rules, but...
What?
I can appreciate...
What's the cheese rule?
Have I never explained the cheese rules?
The cheese rule we have in this house is consume as much as possible, period, end of sentence.
Okay, well, that's a much easier situation than I have. So I don't eat most cheese. And there are very few ways in which I will eat cheese.
Okay.
They are referred to by people who've been married to me. Actually, just last night, Todd and I were discussing, we were joking, like, what would happen if my three husbands got into a room together? Because Charlie and Todd have met each other a number of times.
But first husband, no.
Yes, first husband and current husband have been a number of times.
Second husband, no.
Second husband, no. First husband met second husband once for like a hot minute. But and Todd, my first husband, genuinely seem to like each other. Like they send each other memes and they we joked like what would happen. I'm like, do you guys have like a little club? Do you like talk about having been married to me? What it's like? I said, and if so, how many conversations were about the cheese rules? Because they both find them very hilarious.
So do you cheat? Like you can't eat certain cheese on things?
Okay. So I'll tell you the cheese rules. They're actually very simple. They're very much aligned to what your average toddler would eat.
Okay.
So I'll eat pizza. I'll eat mozzarella cheese on pizza. I will eat provolone on a hoagie, provided it's not too sharp. I'll eat American cheese on a burger or on a cheesesteak. I will eat a grilled cheese if I make it myself. I will eat a mozzarella stick.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've now concluded the ways in which I will eat cheese.
I will eat cheese on anything, anywhere, anytime. Give it all to me.
Also, I do serve good cheeses at parties. I don't know what they taste like, but I've been told I have a knack for the choosing.
Okay. This is a real divide at Little Miss Recap.
Yeah, this is a thing that makes me different than the others. It just does.
There is nothing better than taking a meatball out of the pan before you get it into sauce or soup,
Oh,
Splitting that open, it's nice and crunchy, and putting a ton of Parmesan cheese on that baby and down the
yeah.
gullet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and here's the thing, I don't require anybody to remember my cheese rules.
Okay.
It's no one's job to remember what I will or will not eat. Generally speaking, if people ask, though, I will just say I don't care for cheese because no one has to remember the nuance. If you just know I don't like cheese, you won't put it on my thing.
Okay. Are people like, are you okay? Do they ask you if you're okay when you
I've
say you
had a
don't like
number of
cheese?
people, yeah, I've had a number of people ask me what's
Okay.
wrong with me.
I could eat, like, Timmy laughs because everywhere we go, I want to get a cheese plate, of course,
Mm,
because, I'm a
right,
middle-aged white woman. What else do I
right,
eat?
yeah.
And I want to get cheap wine and cheese plate. And sometimes I'll just make one for dinner and that's what we have.
Mhm.
Just a cheese plate.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I enjoy a little snack of like a charcuterie, but just the meats and
Just the
crackers.
meats.
Yeah,
Okay. All
just
right.
the meats. So,
Just the meats. Okay. Moving on.
things you learned about me
Um,
today.
I have to say, and I want to hear from our audience on this. Amanda and I were talking off air how much we enjoy covering this.
Mhm.
And I just want to know, are you guys enjoying this? Because we're enjoying it so much.
Yes, and it's this season, as I was saying to Amy ahead of time, is not getting great reviews, which I don't really quite understand.
I understand it.
I understand it a little bit. It's part of the challenge is this is an era we all remember. So it's
Yes.
much harder for it to be removed.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
too started listening to the official Crown podcast. And I thought it was interesting
Mhm.
how they said, like, we know from paparazzi how she spent all of her final days, like where she was, what she was wearing,
Mhm.
who she was
Mhm.
with. We don't know what anybody said.
Right. Right.
So, we can construct the timeline, but what happened in that timeline is up for our interpretation.
Yeah, and I do feel like Peter Morgan
Yes.
rarely missteps. I mean, The Crown has been
Mhm.
pretty flawless for 5
Mhm.
seasons, in my opinion.
Mhm.
This season, I can see some of the missteps, but I think, again, you're right. It's an impossible task to cover
Yeah,
this story and not have any criticism of your choices.
of
And
course.
we're talking about Ghost Diana. We'll get
That's
there next
next week we'll
episode.
talk about Ghost
Yeah,
Diana. And I found it interesting that he said that his intention was always to have each of the queens do 2
2
seasons
seasons.
and
Mhm.
know it. And Elizabeth died at the beginning of them filming this season.
Right.
And
Right.
so he said, and I thought this was an interesting thing, he wasn't ever sure where he was going to cut this off,
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
he was going to end with this.
You
My thought, I think he's going to end is where Charles and Camilla marry.
Okay, that was what I was gonna ask you because we have a big time jump coming up.
Hmm.
So, do
Or
we
maybe
end
we end it William and
Mm,
Kate getting
that's what
married.
I was thinking, William and
Yeah,
Kate.
that would make more sense because I know we do have a lot about their relationship, and wouldn't it make
Yeah.
sense for we've married off Charles at that point, and then to
Mhm.
marry off the next heir.
What I would love to see Peter Morgan do is go back and do a different queen. It's called The
Mm,
Crown, doesn't have
yeah,
to be
got
Elizabeth, it
Elizabeth.
could be
Yeah,
Victoria, like, I'd love to see that, Elizabeth the 1st, I'd love to see
yeah,
that.
same,
Like, give
same.
us some I love
It's
when he's doing history.
Let's get some crazy Mary Queen of Scots in the here. That would be fun.
Absolutely,
That would be
absolutely.
fun. Yeah.
Alright, so
Okay.
today we're talking The Crown Season 3, Episode 3, Dis-Moi Oui. Say yes, tell me yes.
Dis-moi oui.
Dis-moi oui. Oui, thank you. Alright.
Dis-moi oui.
Dis-moi is such a weird like, I took 4 years of French,
Yeah.
and I've never seen it broken down that way, like,
Mm,
hyphenated and DIS. I was like,
mm,
I could not even if it weren't for the "we," I would not
mm.
even know that was French,
Oh,
which is
interesting. Yeah.
weird, right?
It is weird. Yeah.
I may have taken more than 4 years of French. I took it in high school, I took 2 years in college. I
Yeah.
was like,
Dis-moi.
never saw
Dis-moi
this
oui.
before. Okay.
There's a band I love from Canada
Dis-moi
who is
oui.
now defunct, and one of the lead guys turned out to be a horrible guy. But a band named Moxie Fruvis, who I adored, and they did a lot of improv. And there was an improv that they did once during a show that was like, Dis-moi, c'est quoi? Dis-moi, c'est
Okay,
quoi?
okay. So
And
you've
so
heard this
yeah,
phrase.
so that's
Okay,
how I was
okay,
can easily remember it. But yeah, tell me yes.
okay. You knew I was gonna butcher it, so here we
Yes.
go. Okay.
That's why I was prepared.
Diana's on the phone with someone and telling them how Dodi is essentially love bombing her. And
Friend or therapist?
We come to think it's a
I
therapist
think it's her therapist.
because the woman's doing a lot of therapy speak.
Mm-hmm.
He had been in LA breaking up with Kelly, and they talk a little bit about the lawsuit. So they mentioned the
Mm-hmm.
lawsuit that we talked about last episode. And therapist is like, is this taking care of yourself how we discussed?
Right.
I thought you were weaning off the drama. I thought
Uh-huh.
we were coming down off this drama. And her name is Susie. Susie's like, this is not adult behavior.
I know. I thought that was really interesting, given all the conversation we've had about how childlike they portray her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Susie always says, or Susie also says, Dodi is a little lost and he's
Mm-hmm.
caught up in an unhealthy relationship with his dad. And this is not good. And Diana's like, you're right. You're right. I'll come home. I'll come home. I'll make this right. Back to normal.
It's like Carrie Fisher and When Harry Met Sally. You're right. You're right. I know you're right.
Yes.
You're right. You're right. He's never going to leave his wife, right? You're right. You're right. I know you're right. Yeah.
I love that movie.
That's my all-time favorite movie.
So overlapping here is a conversation between Dodi and Mou Mou. And Mou Mou's like, you need to get a ring on that shit. Lock it down. Lock it down.
I hate Mou Mou.
I heard an interesting, not that I recommend going to other podcasts, but I
No,
did
of course
listen to
not.
another podcast and they were, like a real podcast, like something real professional. And they
Okay.
were talking about how they thought it was interesting that Peter Morgan seems to have made Mou Mou the scapegoat here
Mm-hmm.
and has sort of skirted over some of the stuff that maybe Charles had done to her to drive her
Right.
to this point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
they were
yeah.
basically like, this just shows how ingratiated Peter Morgan is with the royal family
Well,
because
you can tell he's real in love with them, and
Yeah.
he is going to look. I don't feel like throughout the entire series he has held them not held them
I
responsible
don't
for
think
some of their
so
things.
either, but I think we're seeing it here, and I think that might be the criticism that people are
Yes,
feeling.
and I think that you could tell he loves this family, and if he can tell the story in a way that could very well be genuine and doesn't blame the royal family, he's going to try to do that.
Mm-hmm. I think he's doing it here.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think like Mou Mou was trying to,
Oh yeah, he was gross. He was
He
not
was
a good
gross.
guy.
And he was probably trying to influence things behind the scenes, but I don't know if he's going to this extent. You know what I mean? It's a little much. Okay.
I wouldn't think so, but what do I know?
So Mou Mou tells Dodi he will make him an equal partner in everything, including the company.
Yeah.
And Dodi's like, you never really offered this to me before. And Mou Mou's like, you never deserved it.
Yeah, you never got a big enough trophy for it. It's so gross the way
It's gross.
just the way they're talking about her as not a person, but just
Yes.
this asset that he needs to acquire
Yes.
to further
prize.
their
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
gross.
Don't all sons want to eclipse their fathers? He asks him. So Dodi heads over to because it feels like Diana's on the bang yacht at this point. She's on like a skiff or a little something.
I just think she's on the other side of the boat.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, that boat is so freaking
I
big.
just wanted to talk about the bang yacht.
The bang yacht, the baby yacht versus the big yacht.
Yeah,
the bang yacht.
Dodi scoots on over to the bang yacht. Let's just
Yes.
pretend. And he invites Diana to go into Monte Carlo with him to go shopping and eating ice cream. And she's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. She's like, I need to talk to you. And he's like, I need to talk to you. So let's go.
I like how she said, can we just stay in and be cozy? I say that.
I say
Most of the
that.
time, I'm like,
I
"Can we
say
just stay
a
and be cozy?"
version of that. Could we just
Yeah.
stay home and cozy
be
up? Or,
comfy.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're both wearing baseball caps. This is a problematic look for both of them. I don't know what's happening here.
Can we talk about the fact that he looks like such a schlub next to her all of the time?
All of the time. Yes.
All of the time. It's really noticeable on the last night.
Yes.
And his clothes are very expensive. It's not that. He just looks like a schlub next to her. Yeah.
I feel like they found a good actor to play him.
I do too.
Yeah. Like
I do
he's
too.
handsome enough.
Yeah.
But he's not handsome. He's not Diana level.
No.
And not that
But
that
looks a lot
sounded
like
mean.
him.
That sounded mean. I mean, he's a fine looking person.
Yeah.
But put him up against Princess Diana and it's like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Put Princess Diana up against almost anybody on the planet who ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jesus.
So they get into Monte Carlo. There's a lot of street noise. And over ice cream, he apologizes to her for what happened with Kelly, the fiance. Diana's like, I know this all too well, like whatever. And Dodi admits that he told Kelly to quit her job, so she did lose a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote he's wearing a real weird hat. He
Does this make you
explains.
want to go to Monte Carlo though? Just
I
these little
kind of
winding
do.
streets. Like, let's go
I
to
want
Monte
to
Carlo.
go everywhere they are.
Yeah,
It's
same.
beautiful.
I might miss the field of in Bosnia of the
Oh,
landmines. I
the
just might skip
landmines?
that.
You're gonna skip that one?
I might skip that one, but otherwise, yeah,
Okay,
I'm in.
that's off the itinerary. Okay.
Yeah,
So he explains that he is upset by media coverage and they're calling him an oily rat,
yeah.
which is, of course, baked in racism.
Oh God, yeah.
And Di says that she hates everyone here, wants to move to another country, and they talk about California. And I wrote, did Harry know this? That she'd love to
Yeah.
go to California?
Or was this even a real
Yeah, we don't
conversation that
even
they
know if it was
had?
real. Right.
Yeah, but I clocked that too. I was like,
Hmm. So a bunch of unruly teens recognize her.
of course, it's always the
And
teen girls.
they want a picture. The boys want a kiss. I wanted to say to these
Gross.
boys, do you talk to your mother with that mouth?
Seriously, the way they were talking to her.
Ugh. They escape into a diamond store, real convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And as the crowd is banging at the windows, Dodi asks which ring she likes, and she jokingly points out a ring with Dis-Moi Oui on the poster. And they manage
Dis-moi.
to,
Moi.
oh, what I say,
Moi.
moi?
Yes.
Dis-moi. Okay.
Moi. Moi.
Oui on the poster, and they manage to escape.
That ring is so ugly, Amy.
The ring is fucking gross.
That ring is so hideous. There is no universe in which Diana would want that ring.
No, I agree.
Not someone with her level of style, and that ring is so fucking ugly. I'm
I
sure it
agree.
costs more than anything I could ever conceive of,
Mm-hmm.
but it is so ugly.
If someone gave me that, I would not be, what is it? Dis-moi weeing.
No,
That would
no,
be
there would be no
dis-moi
weeing.
none.
There would be no no wee to the dis-moi.
No. Mm-mm.
No.
So back on the boat, she tells him that she's going home tomorrow. And this is really like, my anxiety was high for her throughout the
Mhm.
rest of this episode, starting now.
Same, because again, like I told you last time we recorded before you'd watched it, at every step she takes from this point forward, I'm like, don't do that.
Well,
Don't do that. Don't do
and
that.
I
Like
feel like, yes. And I
any
feel
one
like
of those choices could have changed this.
if this is true, right,
Yeah.
which we know the movements are true,
Yeah.
but we don't know if the emotion
Motivation.
behind it
Yeah.
is. If this is true, she just never had agency over her life,
No.
right down to the last night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
she just doesn't have agency.
She's rather being run over by a man or run over
Mhm.
by the paparazzi,
Yep.
literally or
Yep.
figuratively.
Yeah. So she says she has work to do. She wants to go home tomorrow. The boys are coming back. So she's going to fly home on British Airlines or British Airways. And Dodi's like, no. I'll get you our jet. Let me just ask Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells Dad about the ring, and Dad is all hard over this. He's like, oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, he is all boned up.
Doni says the ring was not in stock, but they have it in their Paris store. So Mou Mou's like, well, then you're going right to fucking Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And Dodi tells Diana they can use the jet, but he needs to swing by Paris first just for one night. And I'm ready to go through the screen or jump out of my skin or
I
something.
know. Don't go to Paris.
Yep.
This is not going to go well for you. Don't go to Paris.
At Balmoral, Philip and Anne are making snarky comments about William and Harry and their mother. Philip is the worst.
And he's right at the end of the table.
He's the worst.
Oh, I hate him.
William is sulking, of course, and Anne thinks taking him hunting might do the trick.
Sure.
Get him a stag.
Such a weird thing. Like, I got mine at 15. Charles got his 14, 13, whatever it was. I'm like, gross.
Yeah, they're tying it to some kind of
Rite of
masculinity,
passage.
which is weird.
Yeah.
So Diana and Dodi arrive at the airport to swarms of reporters. We also get eyes on the driver for the first time, the bodyguard, the driver. He says Mou Mou's instructing they go right to Villa Windsor, even though Diana has an appointment to talk with her sons. They're like thwarting her efforts to talk with them.
Right. And it's so funny to remember, like, she could have had like, she had to be somewhere to call her children.
Right. Yeah. She did. They get to Windsor. Mou Mou calls and asks to speak with Diana. She doesn't want to get on the phone with them. But she gets on the phone with them, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor," which were Edward and Wallis
Mhm.
Simpson,
Yeah.
spent many years here. And on the podcast, they were saying in season 5, Moo Moo bought this house, and I don't remember that. I need to do a rewatch.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge thing, but yeah, Moo Moo bought the house, and he made it when I was rewatching it yesterday, just to refresh my memory,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Todd was either in the room for the whole thing or came I think he was in the room for the whole thing, but he's like, uh, the fact that, Moo Moo is trying to impress Diana with saying, "Jacques Chirac sold me the house from the French government," and Diana's like, "Mm, yeah."
Yeah.
Like, you can't impress her. You
No.
cannot come up with a
No.
thing that will impress her.
She literally was having sex in a bedroom next to the queen.
Right, like
She's reached the pinnacle here.
yes. Yeah, the fact that Jacques Chirac sold you a house,
Yeah,
great.
no. Mm-mm.
Congratulations,
Mm-mm.
Mohammed. Who
Mm-mm.
cares?
Mm-mm. So, Dodi grabs the phone. In this conversation, Moon was like, this house was given to me, he says, by the city of Paris, and
Mhm.
it's the perfect house looking for the perfect couple. And Dodi grabs the phone. He's like, chill out, dude. Take it down
Right,
17 notches.
right. You're
Like, chill.
anything I'm doing right here, you are tearing apart.
We all have that friend. We all have that friend. You're out
Yeah,
drinking with the new guy that you like or whatever.
right.
And
And
we
she's
all
like,
have that.
"Kiss him, kiss
Yes,
him."
we all have
You're
that
like, "Oh my
friend.
god, get out of my face, you weirdo."
So Di and Dodi head to his apartment at help me, where did they go?
His apartment is where they're going to go. They first go to the Ritz-Carlton.
The Ritz-Carlton, thank you.
They were
And
going to
Mumu
go to the
owns it.
apartment, and they got stuck in traffic so badly that they
Yeah.
wound up just going to the Ritz.
And Mumu owns it, which I
Yes.
didn't know this. Okay. So the paparazzi's really amping up. And I want to say really kudos to the director here because they do a great job of
Mhm.
mimicking the chaos.
How chaotic and
Yes.
frenetic it
Yep.
was, and how scary that would have felt.
Absolutely. If you listen closely, there's like a drum beat in the background that's like
Uh-huh.
steadily increasing,
Yeah.
and it's like really crazy. So, Diana gets inside and she calls the boys, but she's missed them.
Mm.
And the woman on the other line, I don't think it's Anne, I think it's just some servant, says
Yeah.
like they waited and then went back outside. Sorry, they waited for you, but you didn't call.
Yeah. No, Anne wouldn't have been answering the phone
Mm-mm.
there.
We have a little montage of Diana wrapping up a PlayStation for Harry
Mhm.
and
And I had to
William.
look up when his birthday is. It's September 15th.
Oh, so
So
she would have had this for him.
yeah, his mother died 2 weeks before his birthday.
Yeah. Ugh. William is hunting. Dodi is buying the ring that Diana wants. And
Mhm.
it's a moment, I just wrote, it's a moment of calm and stillness in a very chaotic episode.
Mhm.
All right,
Mhm.
now we get back outside, heading now to the apartment from the Ritz-Carlton. Utter chaos. Diana calls the boys again. When she gets there, she gets William on the horn. Harry gets on. She says she'll be home tomorrow. Harry calls Dodi the poser.
Mhm. They are not
I love it.
this
Love
Dodi situation
it.
in the least. But yeah, something you texted me when you were watching it with your notes that I thought was as I was rewatching it is just so clear. She just misses her kids. She just wants to get home to her kids.
It's so I know this ache as a mother.
Mhm.
It's like something about being with your kids is like just a reset for you. So like
Mhm.
whenever like even when I was in the Bahamas with Timmy and I was like having anxiety and
Right.
I just wanted to be with my kids. Do
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it's like that's where I'm
Right.
just calm.
It's where you're grounded.
Mhm. So I really felt that from her in this whole
Plus,
episode. It's ugh.
I think for Diana, probably the only really true relationships she had were with her children.
It is an unconditional love
Yeah, and it's
that
not
yeah.
transactional.
Nope.
They don't want anything from her other than for her to be their mother, which is what she wants to be. Like
And
it's exactly the relationship it should be.
she probably feels they are the only that is when she is her truest self.
Mhm.
That's it. Hey everyone, stay tuned. Little Miss Recap will be right back after these words. So, William puts Harry on the phone and he's, typical older sib. Jenny would do this
Other
shit
way.
to me all the time.
Harry
No,
puts William on the phone.
no, first William
Oh,
has Harry on the phone.
yes.
He's going, ask her.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
Harry
yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah.
So now William gets on the phone and he's like, "Are you going to marry this guy?" And she's like, "No, no." And he's like, "The newspapers say you're going to." And she says, "The answer's no.
Right.
Mummy's coming home tonight. It'll just be the three of us. I'm not marrying Dodi. Emphatically not marrying him. Like,
Yeah.
not
Not
happening."
even on her
Mm-mm.
radar, on the picture. Nothing.
Back outside, it's dark now. And Dodi wants to go to Chez Bonnet.
Chez Bernay.
Chez Bonnet. And the paparazzi's all over them. And they change plans and they decide to go back to the Ritz go
Mhm.
back to the Ritz, right? So they walk in and you could see how I would be an idiot walking around Paris. I'd be like, "Oh, what is Dis-Moi Oui?" I'd be like pronouncing words like
When
they
we go
sound
on
like
our
this.
Little Miss Recap World Tour, I will take care of our time in Paris. I will take care
You
of that for
not
us.
only can you not take Amy Archer out of America, you can take her out of Scranton, Pennsylvania, apparently. Okay. So um they change plans, they walk in, everybody's like, "Whoa, like Princess Di just walked in." Like
How awful
they
for
go
her.
into
Oh,
the main dining room. I'm
right.
going,
Like, what are you thinking?
can't they get a table off to the side somewhere? What is
Right.
happening here?
How did they think that this would be a good idea?
I don't know. They
Except
get
Dodi wanted to be seen with her.
Now I will ask you because I know I sure have. Have you ever had a dinner like this where you walk in and you just start to cry at the table? Because I've had many of them.
I've had many of them too. Now, I haven't
Yes.
had them because everyone in the restaurant is looking at me funny and
Mm-mm,
talking about me, and
mm-mm.
I can hear it.
I've usually
But
had them because of something going on with the other person.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
So Dodie gets her out of there. They eat upstairs. Okay.
She just starts crying at the table. You can see she's crying so hard, and just that one, like,
Mhm. Now that's something I'd be interested to know. Did that happen? You know what I
I would
mean? Because
think it
there's
would
other
have.
people there.
Yeah, there's enough people there to have validated what happened.
So in the room, Diana apologizes, but Dodie's like, "No, no, no, this is all me. Like, you wanted to get home." He puts on Julio Iglesias. He presents her with the ring. And she's like, "No, no, 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 no,
No,
no,
no,
no.
no, no,
What are
no,
you
no, no,
doing? What are
stop.
you doing? Stop,
Stop.
stop, stop, stop."
Abort, abort, abort,
Abort.
abort. Do not go on this mission. Yeah, when he puts on like the cheesy Julio Iglesias, my mother loved
Yes.
Julio
My
Iglesias.
grandmother did.
My mother did. There was a lot
Yes.
of this played in
Mm-hmm.
my house.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was really into Julio Iglesias and Willie Nelson, and when they toured together, they
Mm.
toured together.
Wow.
They did a duet of All the Girls I've Loved Before.
Willie Nelson's amazing.
Willie Nelson is amazing. I'll have to find it and post it in Backdoor Friends. It's a duet between the two of them. My mother listened to it over and over again, and I
Mm.
saw them at the Valley Forge Music Fair together.
Oh my God,
Willie
that's
Nelson and
great.
Julio Iglesias. I
Mm-hmm.
was like 10 years old, and she drugged me along. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Strange bedfellows, but we get it.
There you go.
So he presents her with the ring. She's freaking out. She sits him down. She's like, "Look, the summer's been fun,
Mhm.
but we can't just get married because the whole world thinks we might. And I'm not ready for marriage at all." And she says,
Mhm.
"There's only one person in the world this marriage would make happy, and it's your father."
Yeah.
Then she says, "I can't make your father love you more by becoming your wife." And he goes, "Actually, I think he can."
Yeah, actually, I think you can, but here's
Yeah.
the thing. She knows she can't. You know why? Because she couldn't make Charles's mother love him more by
No,
marrying him. You
no,
no.
no.
Mm-mm.
She's like, "Okay, maybe I can, but I'm not gonna.
Right.
Not
If
gonna."
nothing else, she could make Moo Moo be nicer to Dodi, for
Yes,
sure.
maybe. Yes. So now they eat, and he says, "Okay, I'll return the ring." And then he says, "When my dad finds out, he's gonna know that I'm hopeless." And Diana talks to him about breaking free of Moo Moo and going to
Mhm.
California. And she asks Dodie now, "Okay, now you help me with my problems." And he says, "You need to slow down.
Yeah.
Stop being in such a mad hurry to find whatever it is you're looking for." And she says she's always dashed around and lost herself in the process. And she says motherhood has made her the happiest.
Yeah. So go home and be a mother, and we know
Yeah.
she's not going to, and
Yep.
it's awful.
So now Moo Moo calls and Dodie starts to tell him off, but he hangs up silently.
Mhm.
Uh he tells him, "I'm not marrying Diana and you need to stop." And he's like, "I love you, but you need," and of course Moo was not hearing any of this.
Right.
They then
Exactly.
decide to leave the apartment. Then he says to Diana, "Do you want to leave the apartment or do you just want to stay here tonight?" and she says, we're going to leave. And
Don't go.
I know.
Don't go to the apartment.
Bodyguard Trevor advises against this.
I don't want to mess with Trevor.
No. But
Trevor.
Dodi's like, look, we're going to switch up the cars, send 2 out front. Me and Diana will leave in the back. It's fine. Henry is at the bar having a drink, or 2 or 3 or 4. He was
4.
way over the legal limit.
Yes, he was.
And he's called to drive them. So then we get this scene of Diana and Dodi. I didn't write this down, but I don't know why, because it was important. When they're alone waiting for the car to come.
Right. They're like in the bowels of, the behind the
Yeah.
back of
Like
the house
some
of the
back
hotel.
tunnel of some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From like, service entrance.
They really have this moment of just like the calm before the storm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of nice. And they, kind of make peace with each other. And
he admits he didn't actually tell his father. And
yeah,
she says,
and
I know, but you will
she's like,
someday.
you will. Yeah. It's really nice. It's really nice.
Yeah. I want to believe that's true. I want to believe any moment of sweetness she had prior to this happened.
Me too.
Yeah.
So now we see the dude from the opening scene again, the one with the impatient dog, or the one who's impatient with his dog who
Right, because he
can't
won't
poop.
pee at 2 in the morning or whatever it is, or
The
10 o'clock at night.
diversion that Dodi has orchestrated here does not work, and the paparazzi are all over them.
Yeah.
And we see the car trying to outrun the motorcycles heading into the tunnel at a really, really high speed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we end with the car horn.
Yeah, it's just so hard to watch, and to look at the fear on her face as she's getting into that car again, and there's all those assholes. And I'm sorry, I'm going to call all these paparazzi assholes. I understand how they.
You can absolutely call them all assholes.
They're all
assholes.
awful. And I understand how they got to that. I mean, I understand the system that created the whole thing. Like, I get it all. It's still just fucking awful.
Yep.
And they should have left her alone. But just the total fear in her face as she's looking at them. And I remember seeing those photos after she died of her with her head down, trying not to be seen.
Yeah.
Also, could we talk about the fact that even in just white jeans and a black blazer,
she's amazing,
freaking stunning she is.
I don't know why this resonated with me, but I read an article about the first responders who responded to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to look it up for clarity, but I did remember the firefighter said her last words when he arrived on scene were, "My God, what has happened?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, isn't that kind of the fitting phrase for her life?
It is. My God, what has happened? And I had forgotten that she was not killed instantly. The Dodi and the driver were killed instantly. She was not.
Yeah.
And she was alive for a number of hours afterwards. I just can't. I mean, imagine waking up we've seen what that car looks like. It barely exists anymore.
So Henry was over the legal limit, way over. They were going way too fast.
Yeah.
And they didn't have seatbelts on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
all the things.
All the things.
All the things.
You wonder if one of those things would have saved them.
Exactly.
If she had a seatbelt on, would it have saved her?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Probably.
Or if they didn't have to go through a tunnel on the way, if they were just like driving down a straight open street, would it have what happened? Do we know what happened in the tunnel? Did he take the curve too fast? Was
I don't know.
Slippery? Like, I wonder what actually.
I know he hit a median.
Yeah.
Like he hit a pillar.
And ricocheted off.
Yes, but
at that speed.
I don't know. I don't know. I wanted to talk a little bit about my did it really happen?
Okay.
Is about the Dis-Moi Oui ring.
Okay.
So I wanted to know, did he really buy her this? Is it an engagement ring? Because in the days after, Mou Mou spins this as they were engaged.
They were engaged, and he was trying to tell people she was pregnant.
Right.
Yeah.
And which she was not.
No.
The autopsy, she was not.
She's not pregnant.
And when he unveils in the Harrods grocery store, listen to me, in the Harrods grocery store.
Right. It's like one of the fanciest
you didn't know Harrods had a grocery store?
Right.
In the window at Harrods, he displays their pictures and he displays the ring there too.
How
And
fucking tacky.
yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
So I found this. So there's a bunch of different articles about this ring
Sure.
because we just don't know.
Mhm.
So one of the people saying yes, it was an engagement ring, and Diana picked it out was the jeweler himself, Raposi, I believe his name was,
Okay.
and that article came out days after her death,
And
and
is this the guy in Paris or is this the
this
guy in Monte Carlo?
Monte Carlo.
Okay.
And he was saying they were in here, da 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 da. Okay, he's one of the only guys on record
Mm,
saying it. Although he would know, right? It's his jewelry store.
you would think so, yeah.
Everybody else has said this was not an engagement ring.
Mm.
First of all, it
Was
was.
it a Darcy appreciation ring?
It might have been a Darcy appreciation ring. So what I wanted to look at is the official record because there was an inquest into her
Mhm.
death by the
Sure.
crown or
Yeah.
whatever. So two main sources have claimed that Dodi Fayed, this is from Newsweek, proposed or was intending to propose to Princess Diana in the hours before or after death. The first is Muhammad Al Fayed.
Of course.
Okay. He is the one who they believe it was super tight with the jeweler. And that's why the jeweler said Diana
Ah,
picked out the ring. Now,
got it.
they do believe that they found respite in that jewelry store, but nobody else, the workers, nobody else confirms
Confirms a
that
ring.
Diana picked that ring out.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's so
So,
funny the way it happened in the story even because he's like, "Do you see anything you like?" She's like, "Pfft, that thing." Like,
yes.
it was the
Yes.
least,
And it was not the right moment.
No, no, she's panicked.
Yeah. It was so dumb.
So weird.
So the second person was Fayed's butler, Renee Delorme, who told Operation Paget, which is the name of the inquiry,
Inquisition. Okay.
that Fayed had expressed to him his intention to propose, and he also said he witnessed Fayed on one knee at his apartment and heard Diana say the word yes. However, he could not be certain this was in response to a proposal of marriage. Now, this formal inquest also interviewed a number of Diana's closest friends, family, and staff. All of them said the princess was not considering marriage at all
Mhm. Mhm.
to Fayed. Okay, the ring was not worn by Diana when she left the apartment, and perhaps one of the biggest pieces of evidence that it was not an engagement ring is he spent like $13,000 on it.
Yeah, if
And the
he's buying her
engagement
an
ring,
engagement
right?
ring,
The engagement ring that he got Kelly Fisher was like 5 times that.
okay, yeah,
So people are like,
that's not what he would have
it's
done.
not the engagement ring.
No,
So there is, was it a promise ring? Was it what was
an ap
Darcy's?
an appreciation
The
ring.
appreciation ring.
The I
Did she get the key
appreciate
to
you,
his
Darcy.
apartment? We don't we don't know. But I'm thinking the people who have said it was an engagement ring are all very connected to Moo Moo. And
There's
that
an
is
agenda for saying
there's an
it.
agenda because that's pretty much only his story.
Yeah.
Everybody else that is not connected to him is like, no, no way. Her
Mhm.
friends were all saying like she was not interested in getting married again.
Right. Right,
So I
right.
don't think it was an engagement ring.
I don't think it was an engagement ring either.
Mm.
I don't think she was interested in remarrying. I don't think I think if she was going to remarry, it would not have been him, and it certainly wouldn't have been some dude that she spent basically 3 weeks with.
Yeah. I think that, I think she was finding respite
Mhm.
in his yacht. I mean, we saw it.
I'd go to that yacht or the Bang yacht.
Yeah.
The Bang yacht would be great too. I'd be fine in either place, and she got to hide, like, yeah, the paparazzi were there, but they were farther away,
Mhm.
and she could go on the interior of this boat.
I could find respite in Saint Tropez.
Yes, you could. You too could find respite in St. Tropez.
If Timmy asked me to go to Saint Tropez, I would say Dis-Moi Oui. Oh my god, I'm such a terrible human.
This is Amy's corner on how to mispronounce French
Mhm,
as horribly as possible.
mhm, mhm.
Um, yeah, I it's so heartbreaking because this just did not have to happen. None of this had to happen.
It didn't have to happen, but again, I wanna come back to looking at this artistically, this was a good episode.
I think so
I
too.
think they did a great job of having that chaos with those really important breaks in the
Mhm.
chaos of just like this silence. I don't know. It was just
And
so
just
good.
really slowly ramping up the tension and the tension and the tension, such that by the time she had to get herself into the Ritz-Carlton, she was, already so beside herself. And she
Yeah.
knew she shouldn't have been there. She didn't want to be there. All she wanted to do was go home. All she wanted to do was be with her kids.
Yeah.
And all she wanted to do was just be left the hell alone.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
leave her alone.
Just leave her the hell alone. It's real. I mean,
I was thinking about
one
like
could argue like you don't marry the Prince of Wales and then ask to be left alone, but
excellent point, but also no, the paparazzi had never paid attention to a royal in the way that they did with her.
yeah.
It was a whole other level with her, and I
This
think it
changed everything. This
it
changed
did.
the whole like paying for paparazzi photographs. This was really the beginning of that.
Mhm.
In England anyway. I don't know if that was the
Sure.
beginning here.
Probably it was. I mean, one kinda leads into the other and vice versa. I don't know, that'd be an interesting question.
Mhm.
But I can't imagine living in a world where all people want is a photo of me. I was thinking about, in particular, when they're in Monte Carlo and they're getting ice cream,
Mhm.
and that's,
And
like, a
wearing those
couple of
terrible hats.
they're wearing those terrible hats,
Mhm.
and a couple of teens, like, teenage girls clock them
Mhm.
and, you know, realize what's happening.
Do you
Knowing what I know now, I would like to
mhm.
think that as a teenage girl, I'd be like, "No, just let them be. They're just
Well,
doing their
that's what I was
thing."
gonna ask you. Did you feel like that was realistic that the teenagers started bothering them?
Yes.
Okay.
Teenagers will do anything.
Teenagers are assholes, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
think about
It
it,
is the official position of Little Miss Recap that
Teenagers are
teenagers are
assholes.
real assholes.
Yeah, like, think about somebody famous that your girls love. If they were just sitting
I don't
there,
know.
a la Rob.
My girls would be pretty shy. I don't know if they would. If they were with
Okay.
a group of their friends though, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
not maybe
You're
not the
right.
2
You're
of them,
right.
but if they're in a group of friends and they
Mhm.
see whoever somebody they love,
Yeah.
would they go running? Probably.
Maybe. Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
I mean, would
it
I
all
go
becomes
running if I saw Harry Styles? Yes.
right, and again, I still
I
don't understand Harry Styles, but that's fine.
Harry Styles, cheese, what are you?
I know, I know.
What is wrong?
I
No, question number 1. Who are you? Who do you think you are?
Second of all, who hurt you? Who hurt you? Uh, so, I think I've said before on this, maybe I haven't, but I love reading the vulture.com.
I
Uh,
love The Vulture.
yeah, and I love reading any TV show I watch, I always go and look at
The
their
reviews.
recaps after. I
Mhm.
like it. And each one always has some like interesting information
Mhm.
in the back at the very end. And this one, they're calling it crown jewels. It's always like little facts that they throw in, and depending on the show, it like I forget what they call it for Yellow Jackets, but it's like, behind the scenes buzz or something, whatever it is. But the thing that they said here is I noticed the gaming console Diana wrapped for Prince Harry in advance of his birthday was changed from an Xbox, an inaccurate claim from Harry's memoir Spare, to a period correct PlayStation,
Yeah.
which I thought
Yep.
was interesting. Like,
It yeah, it's interesting because I thought about that because when I wrote my memoir, I
mhm.
tied a lot of it to gaming consoles, like, I used that as a timeline,
Oh, interesting. I still have to read
and
your book. It's on my Kindle.
I well, it's in my 2nd book actually, which
Oh.
isn't out yet.
Oh, okay.
Now that I think about it, this whole scene that I wrote, and I tied like okay, so here we go. First of all, here we go.
First of all,
So my first memoir, the one that's out, Fat Girl
yes.
Skinny, is about my divorce from my husband.
Mhm.
Okay. So when I was writing the second book, you have to incorporate everything that's in that first book so the reader has it going forward.
Sure.
So I do this scene where I flash back to our timeline together, our life
Mm.
together, and I do it in choppy vignettes tied to each gaming console that
Ah,
progresses us through the years. But anyway,
interesting.
to
Okay.
write that, I had to do a lot of research on what game console was out at what time.
Sure.
And so I knew that in 1997, PlayStation was coming out because that's when I was
Mm,
moving in with my first husband. So there we
got
go.
it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Because I
Mhm.
thought Xbox was later.
Yeah.
So,
So, but
but yeah.
Harry gets that wrong. I didn't know that in
Yeah.
his. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
I was
But yeah,
trying
they
to
also
find out, like, if the paparazzi was a problem in our country around this same time, but I
Mhm.
can't find a straight answer. I think I'm gonna have to do a little more research and come back.
Okay. Yeah, I also the other thing that they point out in this, and what were your thoughts on artistically of the 2 of them as they're going faster and faster and they're being chased holding hands?
I don't know. I don't hate it.
I
I
don't
didn't have
hate
a
it
problem
either.
with
The
it.
way they describe it is that they're holding hands Thelma and Louise style. Oops.
I mean, if I was nervous, I might reach
Mhm.
for my friend's hand or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
I
mean,
mean,
they banged, so they had some level of intimacy with each other.
yes, and they were going very fast, and it was very scary.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I could see
Ugh,
that.
which
I
makes me
could see
so
it being
sad how
distinct.
how terrified they must have both been.
Can we talk about what is your opinion artistically on how good of a father they're making Charles over there at Balmoral?
Oh, Lord. Oh,
Like,
Lord.
we're doing father knows best over at
We
Balmoral.
really are. This this version of Prince Charles is making Barry Plath look like a shitty father, and Barry Plath is actually showing up. Yeah, it's really interesting in how they take William out for his first buck, and they do like the paint, like the blooding.
Mhm, mhm.
What Diane call it? I think the blooding or the
Yeah,
bleeding.
did you get blooded or something like that?
Yeah,
She
and
said.
she's like appalled by it. She's like, it's
Mhm,
so gross. I can't believe
mhm.
that they do that.
Yeah,
Um, uh, it's
yeah.
just yeah, they're making
He's
him seem like father of the fucking year over there.
he's being dad of the year over there.
Uh
He's
huh.
and we don't see Camilla. We don't see a lot of Camilla at all in this season. We saw
Mm-mm,
her in
no.
the 50th birthday.
And we'll
That's it.
see we'll hear her in the next episode
That's
because
it.
Charles calls her to tell her what happened to Diana. And the way it sounds is that he calls her before he even tells the boys, which
Yeah.
honestly would make some level of sense.
One of our backdoor friends and someone I have spoken to personally for an article that I wrote was talking about having to do this, having to tell her children their
Yeah.
father passed. I can't imagine. I
Yeah.
just can't imagine. I mean, telling an
Yeah.
adult that their parent has passed is
Telling their children.
difficult. Ugh.
Yeah, I have a friend who has told me the story of having to tell her children that their father had died. And she was very much divorced from her
Yeah,
husband. They were very it was a contentious divorce. There was no love lost between the two of them,
right.
for sure. But having to she's recounted the whole experience of it to me, and she's like, "It was far and away the worst day of my life. It was
Mhm.
the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life."
Mhm.
And one of her kids was in college, and so she and luckily was in college in Philadelphia, but so she's like, "I had to go get my one son from high school," and, like, I wanted to be with
Mhm.
them together, like,
Mhm.
and just
Mhm.
having to figure out the logistics of that really fast and, telling her older son and then making sure a friend was there with him until she could get it's
Yeah.
just
You
there's
have
no good
to
way to do it, and I think everyone's done it as best they can because there's no good
of
way to do
course.
this.
Yes, and you just have to cushion that blow as much as
Mhm.
you can. I can't imagine Charles being a cushion the blow type person.
No,
And,
no,
and
not
it's
at
not
all.
necessarily his fault. I
He
mean,
no one's ever cushioned his blows. He doesn't know how to
exactly.
do that.
Exactly. Yes.
He
Yes.
doesn't know how
Yes.
to be nice to anybody because no one was
No.
ever nice to him.
Right. Ugh. Oh God. All right, girl. We've said it all.
We have said it all.
We've said it
Yeah.
all. Next episode, I'm gonna have well, you're doing the notes, but I can
I'm
have
doing the notes.
85,000 fact checking things because it's such an important episode.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about that. And we'll talk I also want us to do a where were we when
I remember
it all
right where I
happened.
was. Yeah.
Same and
Yeah.
what we all thought. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And then we have to wait a couple weeks till the final
Yeah.
6 episodes.
Yeah. But again,
Yeah.
guys, let us know if you're enjoying this. I mean,
Yes.
I'm digging it. I'm
I
loving this.
I am too.
My bad French and all.
Uh, I'm here to help with the French.
Mhm.
It brings
Mhm.
me joy.
Mhm.
Makes good use of the 14 years of French I took, and I can't really speak the language at all. So
Mhm. Okay.
it's a good use of our time.
Well, maybe someday we'll go to St. Tropez and you'll
Well, and Monte Carlo and get ice cream and look at ugly rings.
how can I mispronounce Monte Carlo? Monte Carlo. Well, I don't know. All right, girl.
Yeah,
Guys, if you haven't already, please leave us a review. We love
please.
5 stars only.
Yes, of course,
Yeah. I mean,
of
I don't
course.
think I've set it up so you can't even leave a 4 star.
I love, and I've noticed a lot of podcasters have been pointing this out recently, and it just makes me laugh that like someone will give this review, like, this is my favorite podcast of all time. I love what, Bob and Joe do. It's so great. It's so great. 3 stars.
We have
It's
a
like,
few
what
of
are
those.
you doing?
We have a few of those. And I think what happens, because somebody's explained it to me, is
Yeah.
it's hard to hit the stars on your iPhone or something.
Okay. That's
Yes,
funny.
yes. I have a few of those. They're like,
I
we love
know.
you so much, 3 stars.
It's like,
Wow. What does it take to get a 5-star?
Right, exactly. Do you need me to come over and clean your house? Like, I'll do it. What do you need?
But
No, I won't do it,
yeah,
but-
so, and if you want to hear us talk about Sister Wives, jump on to Little Miss Recap Extra. You
Mhm.
can subscribe through Apple subscriptions, Patreon, Supercast. We got it all. We got it all.
all the places.
All the places. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye.